After saving for years, we built a treehouse for our kids. It was their dream. The day it was finished, our neighbor knocked with a clipboard and said, "This blocks my morning light. You'll have to tear it down or I'll sue." We refused. The next morning, the ladder was gone and every board had been nailed shut. My son was trapped inside, screaming. I called 911. They said they'd seen this before, but what they discovered in his garage toolshed sent him straight to jail. We moved into our house in Pine Hill, North Carolina, almost 7 years ago. It's a small town, mostly quiet. People wave when they pass. Kids ride their bikes on the street. It felt safe. The backyard had one big selling point, a massive oak tree. I remember Joey, our oldest, climbing halfway up it the day we moved in. He looked at me and shouted, "Dad! This would be perfect for a treehouse." I laughed at the time. He was only 5. We didn't have much money then. Still don't. But Teresa and I made a promise that day. We'd build that treehouse. We'd give our kids something solid. Something fun. Something that would make them feel like we could give them something. So we started saving. Not fast, but steady. Tax returns, yard sales, leftover change at the end of the week. That jar lived on top of the fridge, and we called it Sky House. Joey and Carly would add in birthday money or coins they found under the couch. Every now and then we'd count it out on the kitchen table like it was treasure. 4 years later, we finally had enough. I sketched out some ideas on paper. Nothing fancy, but I wanted it to be safe. Strong. Something that could last. I reached out to my cousin Ray. He's been a carpenter for almost 2 decades, and asked for help. He came by with his tools, looked at the tree, nodded, and said, "Yeah. This'll be fun." We worked every weekend for almost a month. Joey helped me hold boards in place while I drilled. Carly brought us lemonade and tried painting little hearts on the railings. Teresa would come out in the evenings, hand on her hip, smiling as she watched it come together. I can't explain what it felt like, seeing that dream turn into real wood, real stairs, real windows. The last thing we added was a little balcony, small, but enough for a kid to sit and watch the world. We finished it on a Sunday. That same night, I was cleaning up when I saw our neighbor walk over. Harlan Peters. About 60 years old, gray hair slicked back, always wore black shoes with white socks like some weird old gym teacher. He wasn't the friendly type. Lived alone. Never waved. Never talked. Except to complain. He had a clipboard tucked under his arm. "You planning to leave that structure up?" he asked, standing at the edge of my driveway. No greeting. Just like that. "Yeah," I said. "We just finished it. It's for the kids. It blocks my morning sun." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "My meditation deck," he said, pointing vaguely toward his backyard. "First hour of the day, I get direct light through my kitchen window. This thing disrupts that." I just stared at him. "It's a treehouse, man. For kids. It's a structure," he said, like he was reading off some code. "If it's not down by Friday, I'll take legal action. I've already documented it." He tapped his clipboard like that proved something. I didn't argue. Just walked back to the garage and shut the door. I was so mad I couldn't even talk. Teresa asked what was wrong, and when I told her, she shook her head and said, "He's bluffing. He's full of it." She was right. I had already checked with zoning before we started. As long as it was under 12 feet tall, didn't have plumbing or electricity, it wasn't considered a permanent structure. We were within every rule. I didn't think about it again until the next morning. It was around 6:30 a.m. when I heard it, screaming. Not just yelling. Screaming. My son. I jumped out of bed so fast I didn't even grab shoes. Ran out the back door in nothing but shorts and a t-shirt. Joey was inside the treehouse, pounding on the walls. Carly was at the base of the tree, crying her eyes out, pointing up. The ladder was gone. Not moved. Gone. I looked around. No sign of it. Then I saw the boards. The windows boarded up. The trapdoor boarded shut. The little balcony gate nailed shut from the outside. Thick wood. Industrial nails. I don't know how long I stood there before Teresa ran out behind me. "He's stuck!" she shouted, panicked. "He can't get out." I told her to call 911. Ran to the shed and grabbed my crowbar. It took me almost 10 minutes to break the trapdoor open. When it finally gave, Joey was crouched in the corner, soaked in sweat, face red, crying. I climbed in, pulled him into my arms. He kept whispering, "I couldn't get out. I couldn't get out." By the time I carried him down, the police were already there. 3 cars, 1 ambulance. Carly clung to Teresa like she was glued on. A female officer, Layton, started asking questions. I was still shaking. I just pointed at the treehouse and said, "Someone did this." She went up with a flashlight, looked at the boards. "These were put on from the outside," she said. "Deliberate. Heavy-duty nails. This wasn't a prank." I said the only person who had a problem with the treehouse was Harlan. Officer Layton gave me a look and said something that chilled me. "We've seen this kind of thing before." "What the hell does that mean?" I asked. "Neighbor disputes. Some people take things too far. But this? Sealing a kid in like that? This is off." They asked if Harlan was home. He wasn't. His driveway was empty. But then something happened. Another officer came over and said they spotted something suspicious in Harlan's yard. A small locked shed near his garage. No windows. No number address. No visible permit or markings. Just a gray metal box sitting behind a fence with a padlock on the handle. They got a warrant within hours. By late afternoon, a small crowd had gathered. Word spread fast in Pine Hill. People were peeking over fences, standing on porches, whispering. A few moms from Carly's school came over to check on us. One of them, Marie, told Teresa, "He's always been weird. He yelled at my son last year for bouncing a basketball." At 4:15, 2 detectives showed up with a locksmith and a camera guy from the sheriff's office. They cut the lock on Harlan's shed. I stayed back. I didn't want the kids seeing anything. Teresa brought them inside and put on a movie, but I could tell they weren't watching it. Joey sat stiff, staring out the window like he was waiting for something else to happen. 20 minutes passed. Then one of the detectives, Vargas, came out and walked straight toward me. His face was pale. "We need to talk," he said. "Privately." I followed him around the side of the garage, away from the neighbors. "There's more going on here than we expected," he said. I didn't say anything. He pulled out a folder. Inside were photos, ones they just pulled from inside Harlan's shed. Some were Polaroids. Some printed off a computer. All were of kids. Not just mine. Other kids. Neighborhood kids. Some I recognized. Some I didn't. Most of the pictures were from behind. Some looked like they were taken through windows. Some in backyards. One showed a kid climbing into a car, and someone had circled the license plate with red ink. There were notes, too. Excessive noise. Sibling screams. Dog barks at 6:12 a.m. Violent child? Another one said. Ladder removed. Boarded. No response yet. That last one, that was about Joey. Vargas looked at me. He's been documenting children for years. Not just yours. Others. This isn't just a neighbor dispute anymore. I felt like the ground shifted under me. Is this some kind of pervert thing? I asked. No. Not like that, he said quickly. No evidence of that kind. But obsessive behavior. Dangerous. Controlled. Targeted. That's when another officer shouted from inside the shed. Vargas and I ran over. Inside the shed was a whole setup. A desk. A monitor. Several hard drives stacked on metal shelves. Dozens of labeled notebooks. But in the corner, behind a curtain of tarp, was something that made my blood run cold. It was a replica. A small, scaled-down version of our treehouse. Same design. Same balcony. Same windows. But it wasn't made with regular wood. It was painted black. The windows were covered with mesh. The door was sealed shut. Inside the mini version was a doll. The same size as Joey. Same red t-shirt. Same jeans. Same shoes. They found a box labeled Future Adjustments. Inside were screws, locks, chains. And a note. Stage 2. Soundproofing materials needed. I had to step out. I threw up behind a bush. When Harlan pulled into his driveway at 6:03 p.m., he didn't even get out of his car. The moment he saw the police lights, he reversed, but they boxed him in within seconds. He didn't resist. Just sat there, hands on the steering wheel, like it was no big deal. Vargas asked him, "Why did you seal the boy inside the treehouse?" Harlan shrugged. "I warned them. They didn't listen." That was all he said. They booked him that night on several charges: child endangerment, unlawful confinement, possession of surveillance without consent, and something about stalking minors. I didn't catch it all. But that wasn't the end. Because the next day, I got a letter. Typed. No return address. Left in our mailbox without a stamp. All it said was, "You think it's over, but you built that thing where it didn't belong. You disrupted the balance. There are others watching. They won't be as patient." It wasn't signed. And it wasn't from Harlan. I brought the letter straight to the sheriff's department. They took it seriously, handed it over to their threat assessment guy, and told me they'd add it to the file. But no fingerprints. No envelope. Just a single typed page on plain white paper, folded clean. Still, it rattled me. For a few days, I kept Joey and Carly inside. Teresa started locking the doors even in the daytime. Every little noise outside. Truck engines, dogs barking, a package being dropped off, made my chest tighten. Then one morning, I noticed something strange in the backyard. A toy. A small red ball. Cheap, the kind you get from a gumball machine. It was sitting under the treehouse ladder. Only, that wasn't one of ours. Neither kid recognized it. I asked a few neighbors. Nobody was missing a toy. No kids had been in our yard. And our gate had been locked. That same day, Carly told me something that chilled me more than anything yet. "Daddy," she said over breakfast, "why was Joey talking to a man from the treehouse window last night?" I froze. "What do you mean?" She took another bite of cereal like it was nothing. "I woke up and had to pee. I looked out my window. Joey was in the treehouse. The little light was on. He was talking to a man outside." I felt my stomach turn. "Carly, are you sure?" She nodded. "He had something shiny in his hand." Joey told him to go away. I ran straight to Joey's room. He was asleep, but when I shook him awake and asked him if he had gone out to the treehouse the night before, his eyes filled with tears. "No," he whispered. But someone knocked on the wall. He said he thought it was a dream at first. Then he heard footsteps climbing the ladder. Heavy ones. But when he looked out the trapdoor window, there was nobody there. He hadn't told us because he didn't want to scare Carly. That night, I sat up in the yard with a flashlight and my old baseball bat. I stayed until dawn. Nothing happened. But the next morning, there were 3 fresh footprints under the treehouse. One of them was a work boot. Another was barefoot. They were facing toward the house. I called Officer Layton. She came by and took pictures. But she looked nervous. Not like before. Not like a cop investigating some cranky neighbor. "I need to ask you something off the record," she said, walking with me to the side of the house. "Do you know a family named Holtman? Lived here about 10 years ago?" I shook my head. "No." "Why?" "They built a treehouse too. Same tree. She hesitated, then said quietly, Their son disappeared. I felt dizzy. What? It was never solved. The boy was 10. Went missing from inside the treehouse. No signs of struggle. Just vanished. I leaned against the side of the house. She looked me in the eyes. I'm not supposed to tell you this, but after Harlan's arrest, we pulled more records. This isn't the first time someone's complained about the light from that tree house. There've been letters before. Threats. Small things, but weird. Every family who tried to build something back here, they moved away within a year. I didn't know what to say. You think it's Harlan? I asked. She shook her head. He's got issues, no doubt. But this might go deeper. I'm just telling you as a parent. Watch your kids. That night, I sat in the treehouse by myself. Just sat there. For hours. At 3:12 a.m. I heard it. A faint knocking on the back wall. Not from the inside. From the outside. And when I leaned to look through the window, I saw nothing. But the next morning, there was something new nailed to the base of the oak tree. A wooden sign. Carved by hand. You were warned. I didn't sleep for the next 2 nights. I set up cameras, 3 of them. Pointing at the treehouse, the gate, and the shed. Bought them on a credit card I shouldn't have used. I didn't care. Teresa stopped arguing. She started sleeping on the floor in the kids' room, just to be close. I reviewed the camera footage every morning. For 2 days, nothing. Then on the 3rd night, at 2:44 a.m., one of the cameras went dark. Not cut. Covered. Someone held something in front of the lens. A hand? Thin fingers. Too long. Like it wasn't right. But the other 2 cameras caught it. A figure. Tall. Lean. Barefoot. Wearing what looked like a robe. Walking slowly into our yard. Stopped at the base of the treehouse and stood there for nearly 10 minutes. Not moving. Not climbing. Just standing. Watching. When I showed the footage to the police, they said it was too blurry to identify. No face. No clear details. They said they'd increase patrols. That's all they could offer. That same afternoon, Joey came running inside, pale as a ghost. He held something in his hands. A piece of paper. Folded into a triangle. Like a kid's note. Inside, written in black ink. It's not about the light. It's about the door you opened. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to be scared out of my home. I wasn't going to let whatever this was stalk my kids. I grabbed a sledgehammer and went outside. Climbed into the treehouse. Joey begged me not to. Don't, Dad, he whispered. You'll let them in more. I didn't listen. I stood in the center of the treehouse and started smashing it. The floorboards. The windows. The walls. Piece by piece. I tore it all down. I didn't stop until it was a pile of wrecked wood at the base of the tree. When I was done, I burned every piece of it. Neighbors watched from behind fences. Teresa cried in the kitchen. Joey didn't speak for 3 days. After the fire, everything was quiet again. No more signs. No more letters. The cops stopped checking in. Harlan was denied bail. His case kept expanding. They found more in his garage, things going back over a decade. Hidden drives. Old police reports. Even some recordings from long ago, kids' voices. Laughter. Screams. The town had been blind to him for too long. But we weren't okay. Joey changed. He stopped going outside. Barely talked. Wouldn't sleep in his own bed. Started drawing strange things, tall black shapes. Circles with eyes. Trees with doors in them. One night I sat by his bed, trying to get him to talk. He looked up at me with tired eyes and said, Dad, you tore down the treehouse. But you left the tree. What do you mean? He didn't answer. The next morning, the oak tree had a mark burned into the bark. A handprint. Too big to be mine. We moved 3 weeks later. Sold the house for a loss. Packed what we could. Left the state. We don't talk about Pine Hill anymore. But sometimes, I still hear Joey talking in his sleep. Saying the same thing over and over. It's still open. We didn't close it. I built that treehouse with love. But I didn't listen when we were warned. I thought the neighbor was the only problem. I was wrong. I opened something. And now I live every day waiting for it to find us again.